Well, hello everybody. No, let's start that again, shall we? Well, hello everybody, it's Ginger here. Welcome back to another painting session, and we are working on something a little different from normal. Obviously we've still got my pastel and charcoal landscape paintings that are going on, but I've been doing a little bit more mixed media in my sketchbooks for a little bit more whimsical kind of rural landscape. So things with a lot more buildings in. I am surrounded by hundreds of little villages, and I have access to and know of and have been to several dozens of little villages with whitewashed cottage, cobble streets, the usual kind of stuff that you'd expect to find in your quaint little villages, and they are stunning, and I always love drawing and sketching them. So this is a sketch I did. So this is a street in a village called Culross. It's a beautiful little village overlooking the Forth. So we're going to be doing a bigger version of this. Doesn't look that much bigger when you look at the size of it, but it is. This is a piece of the Fabriano. This is the lesser side that's textured. So this is the watercolor paper, they're Aquello. So we're going to be working on this. First of all, I'm going to map out my scene with this is one of the Stabelios. Is it Carbofello? Yeah, Carbofello, one of my pastel pencils anyway, in a light grey, so I can mark this out, and when I put the paint down, it washes out with the paint, and therefore I won't have any problems. So, let's get started. I'm still really croaky at the moment. So, the first thing I want to do is map out where everything is based on the sketchbook. So, and this is the good thing about working from a sketchbook. If you're working from a sketchbook like this, rather than your image, then you miss the extra fine stupid details that actually would be over the top for this sort of painting. Because I'm working from the sketch, I've already simplified it. I'm not going to simplify again, but it means I'm not thinking about all the additional details and things that are in the picture that I don't actually need to look at. So we're going to start with the house here in the corner. It's quite a prominent feature, this one. So hopefully you guys can just about see those lines. A lot of this is about perspective. Now, I'm not very good at perspective. So it's always a funny one, trying to get perspective right in something like this. So one end should be higher and one end should be lower because we're going that way. And that's the inside line. And we've got an outside line like that. And then we've got this fun little kind of topper that they've put on the gable end. I suspect is a thistle by the shape of it. And then we've got the roof line going that way, the other roof line going that way. And then this is going to continue slightly, where we've got a little garage on here. Remember, we're continuing this perspective in this direction. And the garage line goes that way. And then this comes out a wee bit to our first proper full cottage, which will be here. And then this has got quite a large chimney on it. And then that goes that way and that goes that way. And then again, we're still following our line. So we want to maybe bring that perspective line up a little bit more. And we've got another one here. A bit more of a weirder shape, this one. And that goes down, that goes up And then we just find the line, the common line to come down, which will be this. See, we're still going on that diagonal. Let's bring that up a little bit, I think. And this has got these stepped stones on the roof, which are fairly common in the rural communities. And this comes out and along. And that's where that actual row is going to stop. It's just along there. And on this side, we've got this beautiful kind of stone wall, which I don't want to bring out too far. So we'll bring it to there. And then this is the start of the church, which is on this side of the road. It's a really interesting shaped church. It's kind of side on to the main road here. And then that goes that way. And that goes that way, underneath this bit. And then the rest of the church continues on this kind of level. And it actually goes past here. And then up. And again, remember we're following the perspective lines going that way. We're just having a bit of fun with the shapes as well. We're not being too serious or following the perspective lines too much. We just want to get the general gist of it, basically. So it's fun. Now this is where we get interesting. So this is the bell tower that's on the church here. That's where our roof line is. Again, remember the perspective, going that way with our roof line. So there's the church, and then in the distance, the road actually curves round, so we can't see where the road's going, but it curves round. So we then want, we've got a hedge here, and then the hedge actually comes down lower than that. So we've got a little cottage here. Yeah, in theory it would do that, but we don't want it to do that because we want it to be behind here. So it does that. It just offsets this going this way for that going that way. Right. Now, I'll add a little bit more on the detail side just so that we know where either of these things are. So this is the little pavement that runs kind of down the side here. And the same on this side. This one's got a huge little kind of stony bit in front of the house, and then this curves around like that. And then that's our road, and the sky we keep nice and plain. So we'll start with filling in our big blocks, because that's always the best thing to do. So what I'm using is a mixture of Gouache, Neocolor IIs, pastel pencils, pastels, charcoal, whatever I've got basically lying around. We're using a Gouache. This is not what it looks like. I know this is the Himi case, but I've replaced pretty much every single one of these in here now with various mixtures. I've got some Winsor & Newton, some, what else have I got in here? Holbein, I think, Schminker, So I got a couple of various different types, different gouache from different brands in here. Not because it's just what was going, but actually because I've got certain colours that I prefer from certain brands. But it does make it easier having the Himi palette. So I just basically popped all of the colours out. Easier when I froze them, to be honest. So we're going to start with the sky, which I want to make a really nice light grey, just because it really offsets the colours. It creates quite a nice kind of neutral down palette. You see that going on nicely there. We're not looking for perfection, not at this stage anyway. We're just looking for fun. So we just need to keep this simple. Just try to keep the layers even when using this. And yes, I'm using gouache from a dry palette rather than straight from the tube. And the reason for that is I get to control the thickness. If you know what you're doing with gouache, you can layer very easily, which is what I like to do rather than just straight on with the thick. And it's not any particular reason, it's just preference, I think, from my point of view. It's just easier having paint that's dry and that I wet up for what I need, rather than faff with tubes. And the reason for keeping the Himi palette is because of the seal on it, and it makes it pretty good for travelling as well. So this is a beautiful warm grey. That's why I like using it. And yes, for those that have noticed, because I've put just one coat on of this so far, it will look streaky, but don't panic. I'm not looking for texture within the in what we're using. Come on you go. Right, that's nice and dry. So now we're going to just repaint over some areas, just where I want to straighten it into a more block of colour, rather than something that looks a bit more patchy and watercolory. Yeah, there we go. Trick is not to go over areas you've already been too much, because that's when it starts picking up the paint underneath. Yes, I'm putting it on and then scraping it back off, and it just helps bring it to the level that I'm looking for, so that I'm not fighting with my colours later on. So you start to see it's all dark on this side and lighter on that side, which is what we want. Now what I want to do is put this shadow in. So the shadow is my steel blue, so it's the same colour that the roofs are. And I'm just going to really water this out because I do not want this strong. Because I do want to be able to see the grey kind of coming through slightly. So yeah, same kind of colour. I'm just going to use my sketchbook as a reference here because there's a lot to think about. So the first thing is, this is casting a shadow down to here. That is a lot of paint on the brush. Let's get rid of some of that. I'm just trying to make sure that the shadows are not too blotchy. Right. So there is the shadows, which, yes, look a bit weird, but trust me, it is exactly what we're after. So then it begs the question, what do we want to do next? Well, I think now might be a good time to maybe start thinking about doors and windows. And the first one being is we've got a front door to do on this first cottage, and this first cottage's front door is a very bright blue. I don't want to make it too bright, so I'm going to borrow some of my steel just to kind of give it a little bit of colour, or at least kind of bring it down a little bit. So we want it here. And this will have a couple of coats when I'm done. But for now, I just want to make sure I get it in and marked out. Because these are all in shadow. So we want to make sure that these are indeed in shadow where they need to be. This is a little bit watery because of course I had it full of water for the road shadows. Straighten that line out at the top, like that. Right, everything's nice and dry and gone back to flat, as you can see. And what we're generally going to do next is work on the road, which is always the next section that I like to work on, just because that gives a flow to what we're doing. Starting with where our different shapes are, because some of them we lose as we paint. So you can see we've lost where this where the pavement is. So we're just going to pencil this back in. This is the Faber-Castell Pitt oil base, so it's waterproof. And that kind of comes in and then across the front here, like so. Which I think looks good. And then we've got the second part of that, which is, there's like a little gully that runs all the way along. And that's for collecting the water off the pavement. And that goes there. So what I then want to do is we've got these stones, like a little paved kind of section here, which I'm just going to draw in here. This leads to the road. And actually, in fact, the door on this one has also got a little paved section, which goes there. And then on this side, we've got our other little pavement, which doesn't really amount to much on that side. I don't think it's supposed to be used. And then we've got some interesting lines that are just lines that I like to kind of flow through on the road. It just adds shape, just little road squiggles. So what we're calling them now, road squiggles? Road squiggles. I like a good road squiggle. There's been a fair few patch jobs on that road. Right, so now we're going to pull out one of the Neos. Oh. Throw the sketchbook on the floor first. We're going to pull out some of the Neocolor IIs. What do we want? I like a mid-grey. So Neocolor IIs, this is a mid-grey. We're just going to use this on the gully here. And yes, it will pick up some of the texture, but that's what you kind of want. Flat is lovely, texture is even better. Well, at least that's my opinion anyway. Won't be everyone's, but it does work. Now I could add water to this and just maybe blend it out a little bit if I felt the texture was too much, but we'll see how it goes. I also want to do the stepping stone bits for the gardens like this as well. And where is it? There's the other one. This one's a bit more straighter. I think it's just like normal paving stones that they've used. And then we've got a section here that's darker, just in front of this bit of the church building that sticks out. So we will put that in there. It's not a massive section, it's just like a little bit. It just seems to be like maybe they've redone a patch of the pavement at some point or something. And then these little road sections, I'm just going to very lightly go over them as well. It just gives a little bit more texture to the road and a little bit more interest. Roads can be very boring, but you want them to be not quite so boring. I could do with some more road squiggles, so I think we'll do those with this. Just light lines. Like that. But yeah, I might add a little bit of water to the gully. I think because I've now got the rest of this texture going on, it'll be nicer just to add a little bit. So this is just a slightly damp brush. I don't want it too wet. And see the colour change on the Neo 2 when you add water. It looked really dark when you put it down on the paper, especially compared to the actual colour of the pastel when it's in your hand. But then when you add water, it suddenly becomes the colour of the pastel in your hand. I suspect it's something to do with the wax properties in it at that point. You know how soft pastel looks a lot darker when it's wet? Well, could you imagine using a medium that's got oil in it and therefore it looks wet almost all the time and therefore it'll be a darker colour? At least that's my theory. Doesn't mean it's correct, but it just is my version. Okay, how's that looking? They're looking good. Actually, I want to do the stepping stones as well. I think they just need a bit more shaping. And then that one, there we go. Anything else? No, I think we'll just leave that one there. Now, there's lots of cobbles in this section along here, and I just generally like to just mark them in without really thinking about it. So we'll just do lots of little different shaped circles. We'll do a couple of different colours as well, because there were some that had little brown tints. You know, if you go to a really cobbly beach, kind of that sort of thing. Not really looking for anything particularly exact. I'm just placing them down wherever. Like that. Right, we'll add another colour in, so there's some kind of gingery colour. So, which one's this? Now, cinnamon. So this is the cinnamon colour. I like this one. But then if you've seen a few of my paintings, you'll know I like things that are kind of rust gingery colour. Like, we're not covering the whole thing in them, we're just doing a few. And I want something that's maybe a bit more brown. This is more purple brown, isn't it? Yeah, this is dark garnet. That might be a little too red. It might add some interest, so let's see. Oh yeah, actually, that works. Remember to go to the edges of the page. Don't skint, because you need them. Perfect. Right. Now the door, our first door, has got quite a bit of nice colour in it. It's a very interesting blue. So we're going to sketch that in here. That has got panels on it as well. So we will, the panels need to be darker anyway. So they're quite long. So we've got quite a wide bit in the middle there as we bring that down. And then that section along there. This one coming up here. It's a gorgeous colour, this one. It's too intense for me for skies, but you wash it out and it's gorgeous. Okay, I'll bring that down there. So that's the kind of panelling on this door. And then what we'll do is, it's got a white frame around it, no surprise, most of these will. So we'll grab our white gouache. This is where it can get interesting, because what I don't want is, I don't want it to blend too much with the blue. Maybe I should have done the white first. Okay, all that's dry. So now I want to continue focusing on this building, but I also want to just add some shadowing to this, just because it's annoying me a little that it's just a little too flat and isn't really showing where the shadows would be, which is a little annoying. Not by much, but is a little. So I think the first thing I want to do is work out what I want lighter on some of these buildings. Like also the building right at the back that's furthest away kind of needs to be a little paler on the front side here. So we're just going to make that paler. Which isn't going to look very different, no surprise. And then just going to make this side a little greyer. And add a little bit of water because I want that to blend with the yellow colour that's underneath. I got enough of the yellow out of this white yet to make it more white. Although I was going to get a pastel pencil actually. Let's get a pastel pencil. See where I've gone and thrown them. I want more whites. And somehow or another they seem to have loads of teeth marks in. I wonder how that happened. Don't know if I can show you guys whether or not you'll be able to see. Should be able to see the teeth marks on that. We know what has caused that in particular. Thankfully she's not in the room at the moment. Right, let's see how white this goes. That's a little bit whiter. I don't want it white because it's on the shadow side of the building, but yeah, be careful how much of that can come off. This isn't the whitest pastel, but like I said, this is the shadow, so I don't want it white. White, Daz white. And for those of you that don't know that, Daz is a UK brand fabric detergent, which is known for its slogan of being Daz white, which basically implies that it has the whitest brand of white you can make for your clothes. It doesn't trust me. Now, I want to do something about our little front house here. So there's a couple of different things going on that we need to kind of work on. There's lots of bricks. There's quite a hefty brick design in this cottage here. Starting with the roof line and working down. So actually we might do the roof line first. I use quite an orangey brown, which it is to be fair, but I'm wondering whether or not, do I stick with an orangey brown or go for more of a red brown? Or do I just throw the pastel on the floor? Let's throw it on the floor. Let's use this one and we'll see. So this one is our brown. It's nicely labelled just brown. And we've got a lip of stone coming this way, and then it's going all the way up. I might add some water to this because this might be a little too textured for what we want. kind of wider here at the bottom as it comes up. To there. It stops just short of that weird thing that's on the top. And then we want it down on the other side. It'll be slightly thinner because we're seeing it from one side only. But we'll do the sticky out bit at the bottom there. Like that. Right, let's add some water. Just because I think this might look a little better washed out. Also, see what colour this goes. It's a little, still quite orangey. Is it going to stay really orangey? Yes, I think it is. But it is going slightly more dirty colour. It's also quite dark because of the wax in it. And this is just lightening it ever so slightly, which I think will work better anyway. So I'm going to straighten the line out, or at least the best I can do. I know there'll be a few people sitting there saying, well, why don't you use a ruler? Paint up against a ruler. And I do that occasionally, but realistically, this is supposed to have a slightly whimsical element to it, and therefore I don't want it completely, you know, straight lines as if it's an architectural drawing. It's not an architectural drawing. It's a whimsical painting. It's going to have some fun to it. A little quirkiness is what makes that fun. And we like quirky. Slowly making this wider as I go down. It only takes one hand wobble. But there we go. So that is the kind of lint. It's not called lint. I'm not really sure what. Kind of bits that stick out around the building. In this case it's stonework, so that does make sense. Now this house has got a weird shadow coming across that way, because that's where the light's hitting it, and there's another building blocking it here. So I think what I might do is draw in that shadow. I want to kind of get it the same direction as this. I'm not quite happy with this. I think I need to bring it out slightly more, but we will see. So bring our shadow to there, I think. If it looks too weird, I can always take it out later on. But the shadows are what kind of give it the interest. So where possible, try and get them in. Even if it kind of looks weird at first, it may look better once you've got all the other details in. Yeah, I should have been using the bigger brush for this. Scrubbing this in with a small brush wasn't a good idea, but never mind. Just want to wet this out a little bit more. And of course, it also means that down here, this wall's going to be in shadow. So I need to do that as well. And it has a darker row of kind of capping slates across the top along here. So I don't want it too dark because it is in the light. At the same time, it does need to kind of stand out. Yes, that's better, right. And then we'll make this side darker. Not with that brush, as we've just remembered. Use the other one. Add a little bit of the dark grey to the original base colour. This might not be wet enough. I don't want it too dark. I love a nice flat brush. Oh, my blue's going to escape, but that's fine actually. We'll just take that back across. It will stop running eventually, I wouldn't worry, because we'll be tidying it up anyway. Right, so that's a bit better. That's now slightly darker on that side. The question is, do I make this darker as well? Probably. But not too much darker. So let's water this out. Right up to the edge. A little better. So this really is me just going, right, what do I need to make darker? What do I need to make lighter? Because it's those values that are really going to give the piece the meaning. Same with the garage. Not the rooftop bit, because that still needs to be light enough to show that the sun's hitting that. But this bit we can make darker. Just continue to smooth out any lines. It doesn't matter too much, but yeah. Okay, so now you can see where the shadow is, the shadowy front. Same on this side, not as much with the shadow on that side. I do wonder whether or not I should bring in a little bit of shadow. It's always hard to tell with these, but yeah, I think we'll just bring in a little bit of shadow for this roof, just because it's on the different level, and therefore it's just slightly out. That's just a couple of splats. You know me and I love splats, so. Right, does that make a bit more sense now for this roof line? I think so. Okay, what should we do next? Right, let's start getting a little bit of brick detail onto this house so that we can give it a little bit more character, because at the moment it's just very blocky. I suppose that's the best word to use. Question is, do I want to make that flatter first? Maybe I do. I don't know, just it annoys me when it's not very flat looking. And I know if I used the gouache straight from the tubes, I could probably get it flatter, but I like working with this because it gives me a lot more control. I want that side darker anyway, so that's fine. Right, and then I do want add some white. just white this out ever so slightly. Right, let's get on with the window that is on next to the door. And just get working up some white. This is the Winsor & Newton Fine Gouache White. I quite like this one. Just so we can see where we are. At the top of the door? Oh, it's higher than the door. Okay. So I'm out to there. Remember, perspective. That means that the window will be slightly longer on one side than the other. That's fine. And yes, my hands are shaky, but at the end of the day, guys, you know, we all say, oh, we've got shaky hands. And you know what? We actually do all have shaky hands. It's the tension in the muscles that you're using to try and control the brush is what causes the shakiness. Just making that window a little bigger. There. Right, I need that to dry and then probably come back and put another coat on. But not much. I don't think it needs more than, say, probably another coat. But I start to see the kind of details coming in. I don't like this shape. The window's currently going that way while the painting's going that way. So I'll probably touch this up and change the shape slightly. The rest of them look okay, so that's good. We still haven't done the windows on these sections yet, on that half, but we'll focus on this first. Okay, so you can see the windows are pretty much there on that side. A bit happier. Still need to sort this shape one out. Also want to darken this roof slightly, not by that much. Come on. Just because I don't like how light it is. It's currently too light for what I want. So we're gonna redo that. Just make it slightly darker. just like that. And the same here, we're just gonna go for that. Makes a gorgeous contrast just because of the colour. Right. Better, much, much better. Now, the roof of the church. This is where it gets a little more interesting. We've got one of the sand colours on the top, along the top stones for some bizarre reason, right on the top, up here, is this run of yellow kind of sandstone colour. That runs the little bell. So we'll pop that there. I wonder why I've got this, whether or not I do a little bit more of this yellow on the house. Let's see. I don't want it too dark because obviously this is the light side. That might work. But then again, that also might just be because it's water and therefore it'll be darker. But let's try. It's got to be lighter than that and slightly darker than what I've currently got it. Is that better? Yes, significantly so. Now, the other bit is lighter than that, but darker than that. So we'll see whether or not this works. It kind of does. We'll see how they dry. That's when you get the true tell of whether or not the colours make sense at that point. But yeah, I think I do prefer the darker colours on there. Good. Right, now, while we're here talking about darker colours, we have a bunch of skylights on this church, which I need to pop in. They're a bit of a weird level, so we're just going to come down. Right, so that's the two skylights on the other side. Right, now let's take a look at these windows, because we've got a lot of fun with these things, and with the door frame and everything else yet. So let us focus on the windows, the frames first, because that's going to be nice, easy. So I want the red brown. Yeah, this one. And we've got still on this one, which we're going to mark in. My eyes are like, nope, I don't know where I'm putting that. I'm like, yes, you do. So that's the sill, kind of stone, sandstone block sill for the upstairs one. Like so. Make sure we get that in, corner in there. Then there is one on the bottom window here. I think I brought this window down too far, so I'm going to take it a little bit up again. There's actually some decorative block work that kind of follows the base as well, but I want to do that in a slightly different colour. So that's our sill on this side, so let's straighten up so that comes down. Coolio. And then we've got one that goes all the way around the door frame. This is where they've maybe made these a little too close, but like that. And then along the top. And the same on the other side. I'm pressing quite hard. I don't want too fat a line. Actually, the harder you press, the easier it is with the lines of these. Okay. Where else? It's got a wider stone on the top here. So we'll put that on. It's quite wide, or tall, I suppose, more than wide. Right, that's better. Now I need the ones around the windows, of which you can only partially see. So you can see the wider side on this side and the thinner side on this side. So we're going to go thin on this side, same with this one. Maybe that's slightly wider. The lower one's a bit clearer. Across the top. Across the top. And then wider sill. Sill's the bottom bit. Don't know what to call the bits that go around the sides actually. Stone frame, I suppose. In this case, because of where the door frame is, I'm going to bring this in the inside and up. A bit wider at the top. Okay, right. That's the window frames. And then weirdly enough, we have the same again around the garage door, but I'm just going to do thin lines for that one because I don't want that too obvious there. I like that. Yeah, and that looks good. Now, I do want to get in here with the pencil at this part and kind of look at where I've got lines, but also there's some really interesting lines on the roof from the slate tiles that are on there, but I don't want to do that in the same blue that we've got going on there. So I thought it'd be really interesting to do it in the rust colour and just very lightly skirt these in. So first one we know is we've got this top line here. And then very faintly. So this is the direction the slates were going. They're going away along the gable side and down. And a slightly darker line there. And then same going down. Like that. And that just kind of gives the idea that there's some slate tiling there and it's not a completely flat roof. I'm also going to just use the edge of this to just bring the edge of this in slightly more. I mean, I could just get the brush out, and I might do. I haven't decided yet whether I need to kind of wet those down. Maybe is the answer. Let's see, how is it looking? Certainly looking more interesting. What's causing great annoyance is this here doesn't look, it's too flat against this, so it doesn't look like the house has turned. So I'm wondering if I should darken that up, because that's not really working very well then, is it? No. So let's see. Of course, we try not to touch the downpipe while we're at it. We'll see whether or not that works, especially because we've got this shadow anyway being cast by the next cottage that you can't see, it's out of frame. So hopefully doing this will make it visually make a bit more sense. Because at the moment it's annoying me because it's the same tone. It doesn't look like we've turned a corner. I'm not 100% sure that adding this is going to make it darker or not. Once it's dried, we'll be able to see. Because I think we're just getting very close to the base colour now, so. Okay. We will wait and see if that's dark enough for the different side. Now we've got some windows and stuff to deal with, so let's have some fun with windows. What do I want? I want the grey, so I want my lighter grey, even though it's not really that light. And we've got two sets of 3? No. 2 sets of 6 in 3s. And this is going to be wonky but that's part of the charm. And yes, I could paint this in and it'd be a lot better and a lot straighter, but that is not what we want. Remember, we're still aiming for this whimsical look. I think I made those slightly too long. I think it's going to make it harder to get 6 in here. So we're going to have to shorten these slightly. Or not. That's what happens when I do this without a magnifying glass. I literally kind of know where I'm putting them down, kind of don't. It's part of the fun. At least that's what I keep telling myself. Right. Probably the only time I actually properly count panes of glass in a window is when I'm painting it. Right, last row of 3 on here. I might add a little bit of water just to tidy them up. I like having this texture. We've got all these different textures and things going on. And then we've got the upstairs window is a set of 4. So we'll do them with the grey, but there's some other colours that we're going to need to bring in because there's some things sitting in the window which, whilst not 100% visible, does affect the reflected colour in the glass. And when you've got little bits of interest like that, you really want to make sure you put those in. It's those little small details that keep somebody interested in looking at a painting, because it means the more they look, the more they find. So that's where the panes are on that one. Okay, that kind of makes a little bit more sense. I do also want to get some of the grey lines in this roof line as well. Yeah, okay. And then this should now be dry enough for me to do the other grey line. Is it the lighter one's on the top, isn't it? Yeah. So the lighter grey line on the top. So I'll keep the one that's in there at the moment. And I'll do the double line there. And I've got like a dark line there and down and then across. Because that little bit's in 2 bits. And then where this ridge line is, a very light, do some very light lines across there and across there. And we have the bell, which is a dark grey. So I'm going to start by doing the top of it first. Bring it down. This I definitely probably will add a bit of water to though, because this is going to be a bit of a tricky shape to get with one of these crayons. I could sharpen the crayon, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, definitely don't recommend it. Right, and then that's got to line down to the bell. We haven't done the rest of the colours on that yet, so I'm not too fussed. Bell's a bit of a weird shape. Why are you a bit of a weird shape? A bit more like that. And then we've got a fine line down here, which is the edge of the roof, going along there. And then we've got some lines along the tops of these windows. I was going to do the Payne's grey, but actually I think this grey is probably slightly better for what I want to do here. I'm trying to limit the number of colours per building so that there's not just loads and loads of stuff going on. There's one. There's the other. Down the sides for these two. And then, like that roof, I've just done some lines for the slates, so I'm just gonna do these lines. He's going this way, and then the same here, and along. Probably should be more like that, because it should be following the roof line, but never mind. And then this will be, oh good lord, this is where it gets complicated. Lines going that way. Which is our roof line, like that. Okay, yeah, that's starting to make a bit more sense. And then, where's my pencil? Oh, yes. I forgot. We blunted this one. So let's resharpen my pencil for a minute. It's not sharp, but it'll do. And what I want to do is re-go back over the lines for this gully. Somehow or another, now this line is a lot darker than it was before, which is very irritating. But I want to put the gully lines back in. Just something that's been bothering me for the last minutes. I kept looking at it thinking, I need to do that. So it's got little sections that kind of curve. So the gully curves like that. Go back over that line. That's better. We just want that in there. Maybe this as well. Yay, that makes a bit more sense. We want the same along here. And then we need to re-go over this. So this is darker. Probably not as much as I want though. I feel like that needs a little bit of a line. I'm just looking for where I need to kind of define anything. Like, I want to define that edge, but don't want to define that, but do want to define this one. Haven't decided about that one yet. And more like that. And then the door frame I absolutely wanted to just redo with the pencil. Along with the door itself. Just like that. Right, I'm going to leave that there because I need it to dry a bit more, and then we will come back to it. Everything is nice and dry, so what I do want to do is, I've looked at these windows and gone, no, I definitely want to wash these out, but I will be adding other colours like I said. So, put my brush. I don't want too much water in the brush because I don't want it to run everywhere. Now, one of the interesting things to do with windows, well, not to do, but actually is a thing, is that windows that are on shaded sides of the houses have more colour because you can see through them. Whereas windows that are directly pointing into the light, especially like direct sunlight, you genuinely can't see through them. It's a similar effect to working with gauzes in theatre. You light behind them, you can see through them. You light them from the front, you can't see through them. And the windows have the same effect, so it means that a lot of the windows that are on the shaded side of these cottages will have slightly different colour variants based on what it's picking up from behind actually in the room. Whereas, for example, the window on this side here will just be black, darker squares because you can't see through them. And no, unless you're at the right angle, it will not reflect the sky. So it will not be blue. That's not how light works. Bear in mind that the pane of glass is still a transparent object. I want to sort the top of this window out as well, because it's bugging me. I'm not worrying too much about the shape, because I'm going to go back in with the pencil just to create the shapes. So as long as they're close enough. Now, I want to touch up that window because it's going in the wrong direction. 37, this is the one. Yep. So you see how it's going up, and it should be, but not quite as much of an angle. Right, that's better. Not quite. It's like the door's on the right angle, but the window is not. Come on, window. That's it. Go in the right direction. Well, it's kind of better. I think I need to come into the white a bit. Like that. Yeah, that's a bit better. I can cope with that. Right. Now, I need to sort out this one. So we're going to go in with our Payne's Grey. And this is a set of 4. Is it 4? Two fours? Yeah, 2 fours. So just being really careful where I'm putting them. I might make them a little wider. In theory, I could draw it in with pencil first and then fill it in, but honestly, you actually risk making it a lot worse. So do I want to make those a little wider? I think just a little bit. I think that looks better, having them slightly wider. Right, let me add a little bit of water to these. Make a huge mess while I'm at it. I can tidy these up with a white pencil, so I'm not too worried. Right, and that's the darker windows that are facing us on that side. So croaky today. Right, what else are we looking for? Well, we need to sort this chimney out. And first thing first is, it's a lot taller than that. Actually quite a tall chimney. So we're going to make you taller. To about there, I think. And we also need to do the section that actually comes this way as well. So we won't be able to see that very well yet. I'll probably need to put another coat on it, but that's kind of more closer to the shape. And then it's got a grey chimney pot. Well, in fact, it's got 2 chimney pots. One of them is a grey, which we'll do in the dark grey. And that's the one that sits further back, and that sits here. Not with that amount of water on my brush. And that sits there like that. And then the one next to it is actually a kind of weird terracotta colour, so similar to this, which I'll do on the Neo. And then that will be topped off with a darker grey shape, I think. Yeah. And then over here, I just want to do the back part of the bell. So the light is coming from this way. So we know that this part of the bell tower is in the shade. and in the shade like that. Remember, I'm not making this accurate. I'm just representing what's there. There. That looks a bit better, doesn't it? Yay! Right. Now, what are we looking to do next? We're going to put the white back in for this window that I painted over. Just noticed there's cat hair all over my palette. I wonder why. Thankfully she doesn't eat the paint, but she does like to chew on the ends of my brushes. Oh, come on, it's now in the paint I'm trying to mix. Come on. Just activating my white, which also seems to be full of sequin remnants as well. So that's kind of where we want our window, here. And that way. Perfect. That'll be our window there. And of course there's none on the other side. I do want to lighten these. So I'm going to add a little bit and then I will add some water and wash that out. Although I might not have to actually. Okay, yeah, we'll leave with that, right? Now we've got some grey in here, and this line here, slightly more grey, and then there's grey around this window, which we're going to very carefully put in. Along the bottom there. And I'm assuming it will also be on the other one, yep. And also there's a grey marker around the base, so the first foot I think, foot and a half, 2 feet maybe, is grey around the bottom here. So I'm just going to lightly do it with this. Remember that this one goes this way. Like that. I don't know why, it just does. We don't question whys. A nice red brown that we've been using on this for the terracotta pot here. This should be dry enough for me to do it now. There. And that's the terracotta pot that sits there. It looks a bit weird, but it is accurate. Well, not accurate, but it's fairly close. Right, add a little bit of water to these window frames around this to tidy those up a little bit, just very lightly. Yeah, that works. There. Right, we'll leave that there, I'll let that dry and then we'll come back and do the next bits of the rest of the windows on these. Right, I think the next thing I want to focus on is this window here. Now that this is dry, I can start kind of marking in some of these lines. So this is the oil-based pencil. So we'll draw these thin lines in. It has got a slight shadow on this side, so we'll think about where we're putting that. Just marking these little windows. There, like that. Right, now I want to get this shadow bit in, so I'll just use the Neocolor and just put a really light block there, like that. Perfect. Let's go back over it a little bit more. And the same up here, now that we've got this shape marked in. I'm just going to lightly go over this, just darken it slightly. I want it darker there and to there, and then there's actually a line, so along there it's kind of like a lintel line there, which will stick out slightly. Same on that side. And then this has got like a little grey cap bit in the middle there. I'm just going to very lightly squiggle this line in here. I like squiggle. Squiggle's a good word. This is this other chimney pot, but it doesn't really go any further than that. I want that line there. And then a little cap bit here. It's kind of domed like that. This one isn't kind of terracotta colour, but I'm just going to give it a little bit of our squiggly lines there. I actually want to do that with this as well. Just give this more of a interesting shape, but just really accenting it. I like squiggly lines, as you may have told. Now I do want to darken this line here, because there's a little bit of a shadow lip along here. I just think that'd be nice in the red rather than the darker blue. I want some of these lines a little darker, going that way. Yeah, like that, I think. In actual fact, I really want to get this line in here. Now, okay, right, let's see what we're doing with the next set of windows. These are fairly grey, these windows, just because they're really, really in shadow. So I'm going to just lightly mark that in with this. I'll probably wash it out and then maybe add a bit more over the top. So there's one. Like they're recessed quite deep in, so you can't really see the frames. Same on that one. And then along here to here. And then down. We'll do this door as well. Can't really see what colour the door is because it's also recessed. So we'll just leave it as that. And then we'll just add a little bit of water. And then I'll probably go over it again just to give them a little bit more texture. I want to try and keep some of the texture on these windows, because it will look a bit weird otherwise. But because this is sitting on top of the white gouache, it's lighter in colour than the door, which has got a slight yellower tint, but that's fine. I want to kind of hint that the door is a different colour anyway. There we go. Now we want to do the ones on the other side. Maybe use a plain grey actually, make them as dark as these. It's a 3x3, which is going to be quite hard to do. So I'm just going to do blobs and then use a paintbrush to make them squarish. I think that's probably going to be my best bet. So that's them on that side. I love doing windows and these sorts of things because this is where it starts to really kind of come alive. It's when you start adding windows. Trying to keep the shape as much as possible. Once we add our squiggly lines in, that'll be better. There we go. And that's them painted in. Right, we'll need to leave that there to dry and then we'll get the lines in. Okay, right, so that's dry. I'm not 100% happy with the shape of those, but that's what we have the pencils for. And just work out what I want to do with it. So, first things first is kind of sort out the shape. Because it actually should go more like that, which means this little pin here should probably come down more like that. And that go up a bit. And that's to do with these perspective lines again. We do that. There we go. In theory, that probably should have come down to there, but I want to add some light orange colour. The lighter one. That lighter one. Do this one, I think. Just because it has a slightly different coloured kind of stone around the window. How much is the stonework out here? So I'm just going to put that in. It goes all the way round. I want to do more of get some of this orange and line work into the actual shape of the building as well. That did come down there, that actually went that way. Like that. Like that. Right, so that's the kind of start of the church bit there. So So I need to fix these skylights, not 100% happy with those at the moment. So let's see what we can do. And we also want to finish working on these. And I think actually, I think you want them a bit darker. I think I want a lot of the windows on the front here a little bit darker actually. Let's see. Maybe keep the door. Maybe keep the door a little bit lighter. Just going to put these lines in with grey. It's kind of like a slight kind of lintly shape underneath the roof line here. So I'm thinking I'm going to reinforce the dark edge there all the way along. Because you won't be able to see it very well anyway. And along there. And then a squiggly line underneath because there's a slight line there. I don't know what it is, but it actually looks quite cool. So do that. Now we've got the door lintel there. We're keeping the door separate. I just want to make sure I get those. Notice I've lost some of my lines on these little paving stones, and actually I want to put those back in because I quite like those. Okay. Just darken that window slightly, darken that one slightly. And there's a dark shadow just on the edge of that door there that we want to get in, like that. Cool, right. Now along the top here, we've got a squiggly line. So this is where the roof line is. Add another colour in just to give the top line of the roof a slightly different colour. And then like the rest of these, they're all slate. So I'm just doing little flicks. Like that, just to kind of give that roof that shape. So I'm not happy with this, not very straight, is it? Just need to bring that down and loom. That's a bit better. Oh, apart from escaping onto there. Right, let's see what colour are we putting on that roof line. It's a light grey by the looks of it. So it's got the light grey line along there, and a light grey line along there, like that. Put some lighter lines in as well, actually. Beautiful. Now, what is going on with the next one? So the next one is another window one. This is going to be really tiny. In fact, they both are. But this one's a 4. So actually it's a pretty small window. And this one's actually an 8. There's no way I'm doing that. So we will Oh no, actually maybe we can do 8. We'll just get old paintbrush will help us out on that one. Or I can leave them like that. It's far enough back actually that that's probably going to work better. This I'm going to darken. Because that's facing this way. But it's completely in the shadow. That one's lighter, so we'll leave that lighter. And then roof line, got the one with a dark edge. It actually goes past that because you can't see, that's actually slightly behind. And this has actually got to the side of this chimney. I want to make sure we get the rest of the chimney breast in there, which is in shadow. And it's quite dark shadow. So we'll do that. And then squiggly line down. Darker line across the top there. A squiggly line down here. And then it's really, just do that for that one. I'm going to add some water to this top line just because I want that a bit more solid. I also want to wash out that. That's going to annoy me. Or it escaped. There. Actually, same along there. It's better. Right. And then we've got some chimney pots on this one, and they're in a lighter, much lighter kind of yellowy colour. So we're going to do it with the gold. They're quite tall, the chimney pots on this one actually. Like that. And then they've got a little bit of shadow to either side of each one. Along the base there. Right, I'm going to take a step back and see what that's looking like. Okie dokie. Right, I'm going to add some more gouache to this one. I want the front of that to be lighter. So I'm just going to add a little bit of the white and just lighten that. Top of this chimney as well. So just that bit of the chimney there. Right, we also got This window here I'd forgotten about. I can barely see it. So I'm just going to do a little bit more of the white over the top, quite thick. And just make it slightly easier to see. Yep. And just put some more white on these skylights because they're annoying me. They're still too darkish, if that makes sense. I feel like I need to just keep lightening them up until I'm happy with them. And they just push back a little bit because at the moment they're just too in your face because of how light they are, which isn't particularly helpful. So I'll try that. Now, what we do have is this green bush in the background, which is highly annoying me. And it has a little bit of shadow, but not much. For some reason, the green is absolutely covered in all these colours. So I don't know how well this is going to work. But it starts there. And then goes that way. So we're just going to mark this in. Just maybe give it a slightly different shape. It's a very square, kind of cut box hedge, obviously allowing for privacy, but what I'm going to do is just add lots of squiggly lines. There. So that's that hedge. That makes a bit more sense. There isn't actually anything on this wall, so that wall needs to stay. But it does need a line, so I'm going to grab the pencil actually in this one. Mark up the little steeply bit there, and then bring this line down. Same with these skylights, we'll get these lines in on the skylights. And same on these windows, just to reinforce where those lines are. Or not, as I kind of squiggle those in really badly. That line there, reinforced. I just want that really nice dark line to kind of bring your eyes that way. This we know is already darkish. Just turn that in. This is the other roof behind. And then this is the other house. We'll have some fun with that in a second, right? There. Now, we have some darker and lighter bits in these windows, and these ones, so we're going to put in just a little bit, just to show that there's some interesting things going on in this window. Same here. So make that window fully dark. Do a little bit of that one. Maybe a touch down there on that one. Chunk of that one. More dark in the bottom corner, I think. So we'll do that one full dark as well. That one full dark. And that one there. Right, that should add enough interest to those windows, I think. We'll get some lining in here. Yup, indeed, that works. I'm going to do something with this bell. That's that bit of the bell. I think we'll do just outline the outside with the grey. Like that, yeah. Yeah, that looks like. All these gorgeous orangey reds. I actually have a red, which is this one. Get this on this roof here. It's darker on this side. This side's in the shadow. It's a red roof at the end here. I'm going to get that line, that top line first, up there. So that's that red roof there. And then, actually could do that line there, couldn't we? Now we need to do this window. There's a little window here. It's going to be a 4. There we go. Right. So we're just going to make this a little bit more, a little tidier. I just thought that was a little too messy, but then it's so far. So we'll need to let that dry a second and then see what I want to do with it. I'm also going to darken some of these windows by just washing out this grey. A little bit in some of them, but not all of them. Yeah, like that. And this has got a little chimney pot in. Got enough grey, yeah, got enough grey. I can do that. Tiny little chimney pot. Right. I want to go around this window. Like that. Yeah. I feel like I just want to go squiggly with these. The bush is annoying me, so I'm like, right, fine. That's better. You know what? I don't really want to do too much more to this. It's tempting. But at the same time, if I do too much more, then it just keeps, then I start flapping and faffing. So let me have a look at it from back at a room. Yeah, actually, I quite like that. So let's take the tape off and see how she's looking, shall we? We'll start with the side pieces as usual. Nice and steady. It's taking a little bit of the paper off, but not too much. Right, first edge done, bouncing the camera. This one. That is good. Just make sure I want these corner pieces to stay on so I can keep it on the board. Let's do top one next. That's coming off a lot easier than planned. They don't normally. Oh, lost the corner. Right, but I wish he'd stop slamming his door. Right, let's get this bottom one off and we'll get a better look at how it's looking. There we go. Right, so that's all the edges off. Now we can properly see it. And I think quite happy with how that one's turned out actually. I like the muted colour palette. I think that works really well, especially with Scotland, as everything always tends to be more of a muted colour palette. But just keeping it simple and just making sure that the right details are in the right place in order to really give that sense and feel of what we're looking at. It doesn't have to be exact, if you know what I mean. I'm not painting the exact houses, although they are what is on the street, but it's more about getting that kind of quirky feel. A lot of the Scottish little kind of original hamlets and villages like this. They're very windy, part cobbled, part not, as they've been slowly upgraded. But this kind of charm of the houses with the sash and case windows is still there, with a little bit of kind of whimsical fun with the line work. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. It's good to work with different media. This is Gouache and the Caran d'Ache Neocolor IIs. And you can see what we get. So hope you guys love this one as much as I do. Remember to give it a big thumbs up. And if you've got any questions about the techniques used in this, please leave them in the comments down below. Otherwise, I will see you all soon for another one. Love you all. See you for now. Ta-ta.